The games I'm going to talk about are so depraved, so vile, that even the official trailer got flagged and removed from YouTube, which is kind of funny to think about, but also should give you an idea of what we are dealing with. I'm telling you this because I'm not sure how much I can show you of the actual game. Probably not much at all. I will have to be careful. So I will put some unrelated footage in the background. Let me start by giving you some context. Everything began a while ago. I'm no stranger to quote-unquote disturbing media. I have watched most of the classic movies that people consider very disturbing. Like there's a Serbian film, Human Centipede, Salo, Garfield 2, Antichrist, Martyrs, etc. etc. And I also dipped my toes in disturbing literature, and I'm glad I did, because I found some of my favorite books from doing that. Like Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy, for example. And one day I was like, let's see what the visual novel medium has to offer in terms of disturbing. And I'm talking about stuff that goes beyond your usual Higurashi or Sayano Uta. Really mainstream stuff that, yeah, they are a bit disturbing, I'm not going to deny that. But I'm not a teen that got into anime during the pandemic. This is not my first rodeo. I've seen stuff. It takes more than that to truly upset me. With my limited knowledge of visual novels, I try to recall what visual novels do people consider f***ed up. And the first one I thought about, because I have heard people talk about it for a long time, is Euphoria. And to my surprise, I found out that it got an official translation. You can actually buy Euphoria in English. Not sponsored, by the way. And so I did the crazy thing, and I played Euphoria. Now, this video is not about Euphoria, so I won't spend too much time on it. But yeah, it was pretty messed up indeed. Mostly because there are all sorts of weird and extreme sexual acts, from hardcore bondage to... how do I say this in a YouTube-friendly way?
Poo-poo comes out, the other poo-poo's out, huh? And then they eat the poo-poo.
But the story at least had some interesting things going on in it. It's basically about a group of high schoolers that wake up trapped in a mysterious facility, and the only choices they have is to die or to commit very depraved acts on each other's. Why are they there? Who put them there? It has suspense, it has mysteries, unexpected twists. It's overall almost enjoyable, if it wasn't for the really messed up sexual stuff that keeps interrupting the plot. And let me make one thing really clear. I gooned exactly 0 times during the entire game. This stuff is really not for me. Other than that, there are a bunch of other things going on behind the scenes that are really disturbing, and a few bad endings that are pretty insane. But yeah, it was very messed up. Not the most disturbing piece of media I have ever consumed, but it was up there. So imagine my surprise when, after I was done playing it, I saw some people say that this was far from the most disturbing visual novel ever made. In fact, people said that this is not even the most messed up visual novel that this developer has ever made. And I was like, damn, it gets worse than this, huh? And yes, yes it does. Which brings me to the game this video is actually about. Maggot Baits. released in 2015 by ClockUp, the same devs that made Euphoria. Considered by some to be the most disturbing visual novel ever made, apparently. At least the most disturbing these devs have ever made, and that's saying something. Surprisingly, it also got an English translation. Thank you, Manga Gamer. Very cool. Even though YouTube deleted the trailer for the English release, which in itself is probably a good warning about the type of content this game throws at you. I did what any insane person would do. I played it. And I have to say, this is some of the most disgusting, messed up, putrid stuff I have ever played. The type of thing that makes you feel genuinely dirty while playing. And I hope I got your attention with that description. So, what is this game even about? I'll avoid the major spoilers in case you are crazy enough to play this game, like me. So let's go over the prologue. The game takes place in a city called Kanto's Pandemonium, a city ruled by violence and degeneracy, a realm of chaos and sin, a modern Sodom and Gomorrah. That's because 7 years before the beginning of the story, a pocket of darkness appeared above the city, like a portal to another dimension, and from it emerged some peculiar women. They are the disaster's witches, and they possess inhuman strength. No conventional human weapon is effective against them. Imagine like fate servants levels of strength. And they have incredible regenerative abilities. The nation tried to fight them, but not even the army could take them out. But for some reason the witches cannot step foot outside the city, so the nation simply decided to abandon the entire city, which then turned into an area without laws that attracted all the worst people you can imagine. The game begins by introducing two of the witches, Isabel and Sandy. They are out on a night stroll. They get surrounded by men and start an orgy right in the middle of the street. Great. And we are literally only 5 minutes into the game. What a great start. Here's the unusual thing though, at least in my opinion. They are not getting assaulted. In fact, they are the ones in control, using the men as tools to satiate their lust, even hurting them. Like at one point, Sandy bounces on a guy so hard she breaks his ribs, and after they are done, they fucking kill them. It's unusual. It's usually the women getting tormented in this type of works, at least in those that I have seen. So seeing the roles reversed was unexpected. However, this is not a trend throughout the entire game, not at all. As a matter of fact, here's the very next scene. It takes place in a casino, where a spectacle for sick bastards is taking place. On a stage, there's a young girl crucified. She's Allison, a disaster's witch. You might be wondering how can she be restrained if she has superhuman strength. Well, you see, their power depends on their blood. If they lose enough blood, for example while fighting another witch, they temporarily lose their powers until they recover, and during that time they become as weak as a human. Allison got captured while she was in a weakened state, and now the roulette is about to start. Yes, a roulette is on the stage with body parts listed next to each number. Whatever body part comes up will be cut off. The roulette spins and stops on the left ear. You can imagine what happens next. It involves a lot of blood and screaming, and then it spins again and it stops on the right leg, then on the left breast, then on the right eye. So basically we went from a very depraved and violent sex scene right into a gory torture scene, all in the first 15 minutes of the game. And this is one of the things that makes, in my opinion, Maggot Baits much worse than Euphoria. Despite how much weird stuff was in Euphoria, it was pretty light on gore. Not this game. This game has a lot of very upsetting torture scenes. Suddenly, a man gets on the stage. He takes out a Frankie Spas 12, a great choice of weapon, by the way, and shoots the announcer in the face. He then starts shooting at the crowd and kills everyone. This Giga Chad that can fire a Spas 12 using only one arm is the protagonist of the game, Shogo, a man that, with the help of the witch named Carol, is on a mission to take out the top dog in Kanto's Pandemonium, the one that secretly controls the city from the shadows, a man named Shimon, or Simon? Shimon? His base is on the highest floor of a skyscraper in the middle of the city. And that's basically the premise. It's a sort of a revenge story. It gets into the reasons why Shogo wants to kill that man, his traumatic past, what caused the witches to appear in the first place, their true nature, and other stuff. But don't get the wrong idea though. Shogo is not your typical good guy. He has abandoned his morals to complete his mission. He's not the Batman. There is a scene, for example, where he's fist-fighting a guy and he bites his ear off. And then he chews on it and swallows it. Like, what the f***? This guy's a maniac. It only happens that the people he's after are even worse than him. What other things are in this game? There are tentacle monsters called simply maggots. I think the main reason they are in the game is just that the devs wanted to put tentacle monsters in the game for pretty obvious reasons. I don't think I need to tell you what tentacle monsters do in these kinds of games. But these guys are truly awful. It's like they went out of their way to create the most disgusting tentacle monsters one could imagine. There is a priest who is like a character straight out of Hellsing. He can throw punches that are powered up by the Holy Spirit or some shit. He uses a pistol that shoots 9mm bullets made, and I kid you not, with the metal from the nails that pinned Jesus Christ to the cross. And on one hand, I should probably be offended, because this is making a mockery out of my religion. On the other hand, this is so cool, what the hell. Probably the most entertaining character in the game. Also probably the only character not involved in a scene, which is nice. There's this bad guy named Brian McCumhale. I don't know, I wanted to mention him because his name sounds funny to me. Like this very dangerous psychopath that you are supposed to take very seriously in the story is named Brian McCumhale. Whatever, maybe that's just me. I think so far I already gave you an idea of what type of messed up stuff is in this game. But I truly want to drive that point home, because the stuff in the prologue is only scratching the surface of this pile of filth. So I will describe to you some of the scenes in the game, all from the first half of the game, to avoid major spoilers. But they are definitely enough to give you an idea. And I know it's a bit late to say this, but content warning. Scene number 1. A witch is assaulted by a group of men. They then hold her down, and she has her intestines removed with a big knife and stuffed into her mouth. Oh, we are just getting started. Scene number 2. A witch is forcefully impregnated. The game explains that pregnancy only lasts for a few days for witches, and the mastermind's plan, for some reason, involves impregnating witches. So there's a lot of that, a lot of sexual stuff involving pregnant women. And yeah, I know for a fact that some people are into it. Not this witch though. She doesn't like that she has been forcefully impregnated, and she's slamming her belly against the wall. The bad guy, Shimon, is like, oh, you want to have an abortion? I'll give you an abortion. So he forces an abortion by using his bare hands, and then immediately after, he impregnates her again, which I don't even think it's biologically possible to become pregnant right after. But I don't think this game really cares about what is or isn't biologically possible. Scene number 3. Have you ever heard of the Brazen Bull? Basically, it's an ancient torture device shaped like a bull, a metal bull, with a hatch, because it's hollow inside, and the victim is closed inside, and a fire is set under the bull, and the victim is roasted to death. The legend says that the first victim of this device was its inventor. What a horrible way to go. There is a scene in this game featuring this torture device. I guess the devs did their research on ancient torture methods when making this game. I can appreciate the dedication, I guess. Do you remember how I told you that witches have incredible regenerative abilities? I think you know where I'm going with this. A witch is put inside the bull and is burned alive, but she can't die. Her body keeps regenerating and burning, stuck in a loop of pain. This is absolutely diabolical. Scene number 4. There is a scene where a woman is being sexually assaulted by a maggot monster. One of those tentacle monsters I told you about earlier. And at the same time, the creature is also eating her from both the outside and the inside. Do you know that scene from Alien where the baby alien bursts out of a man's body? Yeah, imagine that, but like if it was in a sexual context. Yeah. Scene number 5. There is a scene with a witch and a tentacle monster, and the tentacles go where they are not supposed to go. And I don't mean the obvious lower regions, although they also go down there. I mean, they go into the nose, they go in the ears, they reach inside her cranium, and the monster finishes, to use an euphemism, inside her cranium, on her brain. which I imagine isn't a very nice feeling, but I never tried that, so don't quote me on that. And keep in mind, these scenes are just from the first half of the game. The second half might be even worse. And also, I intentionally excluded the bad ending. Oh boy, let me tell you about the bad ending. This game is pretty linear. It doesn't have many choices with many branching paths, like in many other visual novels. Most of the choices are unlocked after seeing the normal ending and are necessary to see the true ending of the game. During the first half of the game, there's only one instance in which you can make a choice. Basically, the protagonist is attacking a warehouse full of enemies, and a witch hired by the bad guy arrives. You are presented with two choices. You can stay and fight, or you can run away. If you run away, you survive and the story continues. If you choose to stay and fight, which is the choice I went for the first time, you die. I mean, the protagonist dies. He gets killed. But the game doesn't end. Oh no, you enter the bad ending route, which is called Welcome to the Monkey House. You might be wondering how the game can continue if the protagonist is dead. Well, what we are shown in Welcome to the Monkey House is what would happen to the witches that are on the protagonist's side after his death. They get captured and imprisoned in the base of the main antagonist. What follows is literal hours, no joke, probably between 2 and 3 hours, of the most degenerate, gross, sexual assault scenes you could ever imagine. And let me make this clear, I am not a very puritanical person. I have read plenty of doujins. I have seen weird stuff before. So trust me when I say that this is some of the weirdest, most degenerate, you are not seeing the light of heaven after you play this type of content I have ever witnessed. Let me just describe a scene to give you an idea. One of the many scenes. There is a pregnant witch. As I already told you earlier, there's a lot of prego fetish stuff in this game. And she has a huge pee-pee. Not only she has been forcefully impregnated, she has been injected with some weird substance that made her grow a huge pee-pee against her will. All of this is weird enough already. I'm sure your poor grandma wouldn't approve of this. Yeah, sure, your grandma is a freak. They lock her into an empty room, completely covered in a very strong aphrodisiac. The only things in the room are two pigs, a male pig and a female pig. And I don't want to describe what happens next. It involves a fun group activity between a pregnant futa and two pigs. Your imagination can do the rest. So, after describing some of the filth that you can experience in this game, I guess now I should reflect on an important question. Did I enjoy this game? Was this game any good? Well, not really. Well, I'm not going to pretend like there was nothing to like about it. Like it was some completely irredeemable monstrosity. I'm sure that some people think I should hate this work just in principle, for the type of content it contains. But I don't feel that way. At the end of the day, it's just fiction. I'm not going to act like the devs have committed a crime against humanity for creating this visual novel. as much as its content made me upset and disgusted. I'm not interested in moral grandstanding. It's just not my style. To the people who enjoyed this game, good for you. I want to try to give an open-minded review, and therefore I need to recognize that there are some things that I like about it. For starters, the main menu music has no business going this hard. Also, the art is really good. It's done by Hamashima Shigeo, which is the same artist that worked on Euphoria with the same company. This person sure loves to draw some f***ed up stuff, but it's undeniable that they are pretty talented, and the girls for the most part are pretty damn cute. Maybe someday I'll have the pleasure of seeing this artist's work in some more normal stuff. The writing is mostly competent. The solid night sky, polluted by the neon lights, was a dark tone tinged with chartreuse and magenta. The ground was a chilled, stony concrete. The black and brown stains caked upon it were unnatural vestiges of the atrocious works of man. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's not the fanfic level of writing that you might expect. Well, not always at least. It's at the very least competent. And I'm not talking about the plot right now, but in terms of moment-to-moment writing. Stuff like descriptions, like describing the environment or the characters' feelings, and setting the atmosphere. It feels professional, which is the minimum you should expect from a product that you can buy for almost $50. But you never know. In my search for disturbing books, for example, I came across some very poorly written stuff that nonetheless was published and costs money. So I try to keep my expectations pretty low in terms of writing quality when approaching works in this particular niche. So good job, Maggot Baits. For once, it's nice to have a protagonist that is not another generic high school boy. Even though I didn't exactly love Shogo as a protagonist, at least he's not super generic, and he had a character arc which went somewhere. Finally, there are a couple of things that were a bit interesting about the plot. I didn't end up liking it that much, but at the very least it had some potential. There are a few good ideas here and there. So yeah, there are a few good things about this game. As for what I didn't like, well, there's the obvious that this game is very heavy on gore and disgusting sexual stuff, which I think it can work in a story. I'm not opposed to this kind of content simply existing. I'm not saying you should never for any reason put stuff like this in a story. But I prefer when it has a purpose, when it is in service of making a smart point. And to be fair, in this case, the game tries in some ways to justify its content. They tried to put some justification in the plot for why all this violence and abuse was needed. Light spoilers ahead. It's something about, believe it or not, the pain that Jesus suffered on the cross, of all things. But in the end, it still ends up feeling very, and I hate to say the word, exploitative. I think this word is a bit overused, but this is how the game genuinely feels to me. It feels very exploitative. Many of the most extreme scenes feel so gratuitous. They feel unnecessary to push the plot forward. And they are there because the devs wanted to be as gross and offensive as possible. And I mean, they mostly succeeded in that, so good job, I guess. But that doesn't necessarily make for a good experience for me personally. I'm not a sadist. Not all scenes are like that, but I'd say most of them. You're not going to convince me that the scene with the two pigs, or really the entire welcome to the monkey house section, was really necessary. And the devs weren't just being gross for the sake of being gross at that point. It also feels, and again, another word that I don't like because I think it's a bit overused, pretentious at times. Like, at some points, the game tries to make observations about stuff like religion, the search for purpose, human trafficking, and stuff like that, or even colonialism. Even Palestine is mentioned, of all things. Like very heavy, serious subjects. And the attempts to explore such delicate topics in a serious manner feel out of place in such a perverse, erotic visual novel. I wish I could take this game seriously and engage with the themes, but some scenes make it very hard for me to do so. Like, sorry Maggot Baits, I can't listen to you talk about colonialism and take you seriously after you have just shown me a pregnant anime girl going at it with two pigs. I don't think you are the right visual novel for exploring these kinds of topics. Like, maybe if the game took itself less seriously and was happy just being some dumb, absurd, over-the-top self-aware schlock, maybe I would have been more okay with some of the more extreme scenes. But even forgetting all of that, I think the story and characters really aren't that amazing. Like, there's a lot that feels underdeveloped. And at the same time, I'm glad the game didn't last more than it did. It was a pretty exhausting experience to get through. Even though, as I said, there are still a few decent ideas in the plot. So, to close off the video, let me answer the question: should you play this visual novel? Short answer: probably not. This is probably more than what the average person can take, trust me. But even if you are a veteran of disturbing media and you can stomach this kind of content, the game itself is not amazing or anything. But that's just based on my opinion. If hearing me talk about it made you interested, don't let me stop you. Apparently it has a positive rating in the visual novel database. So I guess people like it, huh? If you like it, good for you, but also I hope you find a good therapist. I'm just kidding, I love you. Thank you for watching. I'll probably go watch something wholesome to try to forget the things that I saw while playing this game. Like and subscribe, and all of that. And goodbye.